Tom lay on the couch as he thought about what Brian had told him earlier. Sonia's brother had committed suicide because of Lucy? What sort of relationship did they have for him to have done that? Was that why she wasn't interested in guys? Was she still mourning him? He couldn't help feeling very concerned and curious. He really wanted to know more about her. He picked up his phone when it started ringing and sighed when he saw Harry's name displayed on the screen. Don't you have something better to do with your time? Tom asked dryly once he received the call. Harry scoffed at that. You hurt my feelings, he said in a mocking tone as he paced around his living room aimlessly. What are you doing right now? Let's hand out, Harry suggested, since he was very bored and in need of company. I know you don't know much about ladies, but that is a line you reserve for ladies, not me. You need to go out more, and I learned something new about Miss Perry today, Harry said, interrupting Tom, whose ears perked up immediately at the mention of Lucy. What is that? Tom asked eagerly, unable to hide his curiosity. Gotcha, Harry thought with a smirk. If you come over to my place within the next 30 minutes, I will tell you, Harry offered, making a scowl appear on Tom's face. Why can't you just say it over the phone? Because I'm bored and I'd rather tell it to you over a game of soccer or Mortal Kombat. It's been long we did that, Harry suggested with a grin. I'm not in the mood for games. Then let's have a nightcap and maybe you can sleep over. How about that? Harry asked, making Tom narrow his eyes suspiciously. Why do I feel like you have nothing important to say to me and I'm just going to waste my time by visiting you? You will never know if you don't come, will you? Harry asked, hoping Tom would bite the bait and come keep him company. Plus, we need to talk about some other important work stuff as well, Harry added, knowing that was the extra motivation Tom would need to be on his way. Work? What work stuff? Don't you think you're asking me too many questions? Do I even need to give you reasons to come over to my house when I want to see you? You know what? If you're going to come, then be on your way. If not, then good night. Harry snapped at him impatiently and hung up before Tom could say anything else. Tom glanced at his phone in surprise, wondering why Harry was acting up all of a sudden. He contemplated Harry's invitation for only a minute before ordering for a taxi ride. He walked into the bedroom and picked up a t-shirt and three-quarter shorts from his luggage, which he was yet to unpack. Once he changed into the clothes, he walked out of the house. He stopped in front of Lucy's door and briefly contemplated checking on her before leaving. He raised his hand to the door and dropped it at the last minute, deciding it was best to let her be for the evening. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Maybe she would think about him more if he didn't bother her for some time. He wouldn't text, call, nor show up in front of her until it was time for their dinner date. With that thought in mind, he walked away. Hey! Tom turned around when he heard Jasmine's voice and saw her smiling and waving at him as she walked up to him with Alicia beside her. Hey! He greeted back awkwardly. Looks like you're going out, Alicia observed as she looked at him with gleaming eyes. Yeah. Need to meet up with a friend, Tom said, not knowing what else to say to the ladies. It seemed like he never really had much to say to ladies unless it was Lucy. He had realized that he seemed to always have something to say, only to her. Cool. Alicia and I were planning to bring some pies over to your house to welcome you to the neighborhood officially. I'm so glad the other couple moved out. They were never really friendly and always looked down on us, Jasmine said, wrinkling her nose distastefully as she thought about the previous occupants of Tom's apartment, who were homophobic. Tom's heart skipped a beat when he realized that they could blow his cover if Lucy so much as found out that she had even moved into the neighborhood before him. How was he going to explain to her that it was mere coincidence that he had moved into not just the same neighborhood, but the same building with her the next day after their one-night stand? Or how he had also gotten a job as her driver 2 days later? Lucy seemed to be a very deep thinker, and he wasn't sure she would buy whatever story he would give her. There won't be any need for that, and I will appreciate it if you don't let Lucy, my boss. Don't let her know I recently moved into the neighborhood, Tom said with a pleading smile, and both ladies exchanged a look. Why not? Alicia asked curiously, and Jasmine giggled in embarrassment as she jabbed Alicia's side with her elbow to stop her from asking him such a personal question. Sure, we won't say a word to her, Jasmine said, much to Tom's relief, as he wasn't sure what excuse he would have given. Thank you. You're welcome. So how about we invite you over for dinner? Jasmine asked hopefully. Tom scratched the back of his ear. Sorry, I'm not sure I will be coming back tonight, Tom said with an apologetic smile. No, definitely not tonight. We are asking about tomorrow. Will you be available? Alicia asked hopefully. I already have dinner arrangements for tomorrow, Tom said with a wince. Oh! Alicia exclaimed sadly, and her face fell in disappointment, thinking Tom didn't want to have dinner with them. What about Sunday night? Jasmine asked, looking at him with hopeful eyes, as she didn't want Alicia, who was looking forward to the dinner, to be disappointed. Sunday? Can I think about it? Tom asked thoughtfully. Sure you can, but it really isn't a big deal. Just dinner between us neighbors, Alicia assured him with a small smile. It really was going to be a simple dinner, since all they wanted was to get to know him better, so they could see if he was good enough to father their child. He has the physical qualities they needed, but now they wanted to know about his intellectual qualities, as well as his background. All right. I hope you don't mind if I bring my boss with me? Tom asked, hopefully, since he didn't want to be alone with these ladies, that looked like they wanted to devour him. He realized that he didn't even know what the relationship was between both ladies. But he assumed they were either sisters or friends, and he wasn't curious enough to ask them anything. The only person he wanted to know anything about was Lucy, and maybe during the dinner, he could observe how well she interacted with others. Alicia and Jasmine exchanged a look again, and Alicia shrugged her shoulders, giving Jasmine the go-ahead she needed. If that would make you more comfortable, I don't see why not. You can bring her along, Jasmine said with a cheerful smile, and Tom nodded. We could also invite her over that way. It would make better sense for you both to come together. How about that? Alicia asked, and Tom flashed her a smile. I will appreciate that. Thank you. You're welcome. I suppose that's your cab over there? Jasmine asked, pointing to the cab that just drove into the street. Yeah. I have to run now so I don't keep my friend waiting, Tom said with a wave as he hurried away in quick steps. Something is going on between them, don't you think? Alicia asked thoughtfully as they both watched Tom get into the cab. Yeah. I wonder what it is, though, Jasmine said, pursing her lips thoughtfully. I guess we can find out on Sunday. It's not too late to invite her for dinner, is it? Alicia asked, staring in the direction of Lucy's apartment. Let's see if she will answer her doorbell, Jasmine suggested as she slid her arm across Alicia's waist, and they walked over to Lucy's house. Lucy, who had been about to doze off while reading, was jolted awake by the sound of her doorbell. She glanced towards the living room anxiously, wondering why Tom was there. Did he perhaps change his mind about what he had to do and wanted them to have sex tonight? She wondered with a yawn as she looked down at the oversized top she was wearing. She was just going to see what he wanted and tell him to come back tomorrow night as planned. She was feeling too sleepy and was in no way ready for sex or any company tonight. With that thought in mind, she stood up and headed for the door. Her brows shot up in surprise when she opened the door and saw Jasmine and Alicia standing there with a smile on their faces. Hi! Hi! She responded without stepping back to let them in. It was late and the last thing she wanted was anyone's company. Hi, I'm Alicia. We are your neighbors, Alicia said conversationally. I know, Lucy replied curtly. We were hoping if you will be kind enough to have dinner with us on Sunday night? Alicia asked, looking at her hopefully. Lucy looked from one to the other before saying, Okay. Surprising both ladies. Brian had a glare in his eyes as he watched Sonia hold an ice pack against his ankle, which was slightly elevated above his body using pillows. He was feeling very angry, and he wanted nothing more than to yell at her, but he couldn't even find the strength to do so. He felt like it would be a waste of time doing that, since he was dealing with a stubborn witch. His doctor had arrived a while ago, and after taking a look at his ankle, had told him he needed to stay off his feet for at least a week so that his ankle could heal properly. That meant he was stuck in his house with this stubborn, crazy witch. Why are you so quiet? Sonia asked curiously when she noticed how he kept glaring at her, but didn't say anything. Why was he still angry with her when they had seen the key? Can you please not talk to me? I don't even want to hear your voice, Brian growled at her. Thankfully, the doctor had given him medicine for the pain, so all he was feeling was a dull ache now. Still, he was mad at her, and the sound of her voice grated on his nerves. And why is that? You were angry over the key I lost, and now we have seen it. Everything is fine, she said, making him want to bare his teeth at her. How could she say everything was fine? Was she blind or deaf? Hadn't she heard what the doctor said? Didn't she understand what that meant? He wasn't even in the mood to start explaining any of that to her, so he lay back on the bed and shut his eyes, while she kept rubbing his ankle with the ice pack. The doctor had said they should do that for 20 minutes every 2 hours. His only consolation was that Sonia wasn't going to be getting a good night's sleep since she would have to wake up every 2 hours to apply the ice pack. By the way, where did you keep my laptop and jotter? Sonia asked as she stood up from the bed, getting ready to walk away with the ice pack and keep it for the next round. Brian slowly opened his eyes to look at her. She wasn't thinking he was going to let her work when he wasn't going to be able to work for the next couple of days, was she? As long as he had to stay off his feet for the next couple of weeks, she would also have to stay away from her laptop. No writing or touching her laptop. As long as he was incapacitated because of her, she was also automatically incapacitated. Huh? Sonia asked as she waited for Brian to respond to her question. Why do you ask? Brian asked, switching from angry to polite now. Because I need to get back to my work, Sonia said in a matter-of-fact tone, and Brian snorted derisively. Sorry, babes. You won't be getting back to your writing anytime soon until I am fully recovered, Brian said, making Sonia's brow arch. Meaning, as long as your darling fiancé is unable to move, you can't do anything either. You have to take care of me, especially because you put me in this condition, Brian said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. How could he blame her for his own carelessness? Sonia wondered as her mouth dropped open in disbelief before she quickly recovered. Put you in this condition? Me? You have got to be fucking kidding me. Do I look like the bathroom tile? Or did you hit your head when you fell? When did I ever put you in that condition? Sonia snapped at him, her green eyes blazing angrily. She was mad at him? Like, seriously? Brian mused in disbelief. Choosing not to engage in any argument with her, he adjusted the pillows under him and shut his eyes. It wasn't like she had any idea where he had hidden her laptop anyway. Even if she went into his study to search for it, he knew she wasn't going to find it, so he wasn't bothered. He opened his eyes when he heard her storm out of the room and shut the door angrily, and then he let out a soft sigh. How would he be able to cope with being under the same roof with her even for a week? It was even more annoying now, knowing that he would have to rely on her to move around the house. Now, where the fuck was Matt when you needed him? Brian wondered as he picked up his phone to dial Matt's line again. He had tried to reach him several times over the phone before the doctor arrived, but Matt had either not been close to his phone or wasn't willing to answer his call. Or was he in his bedroom with Candy? Brian reasoned with a thoughtful frown. He quickly shut his eyes when he heard Sonia returning to the bedroom. She stopped beside the bed and looked down at him while he pretended to be fast asleep. Sonia glared at him, briefly considering whether or not to drag him off the bed so he would tell her where he had kept her laptop. She had gone in search of her laptop but had been unable to find it. She doubted that he was really sleeping. She leaned forward to look into his face, but when he didn't move, she sighed as she straightened herself and stepped back. Knowing there was nothing else she could do about the situation at that moment, she walked over to the other side of the bed and lay down, while facing him. She set her alarm to wake her up in 2 hours and moved closer to him so that there was only a small space between them. Maybe he was just upset about his leg. Hopefully, he will be in a better mood by morning and return her laptop to her, Sonia thought as she drifted off to sleep. Brian remained there with his eyes closed and waited for some time until he heard the soft snores coming from her before he opened his eyes. He was surprised to see that she was lying down so close to him. Looking into her beautiful angelic face, with her mischievous eyes closed and her mouth shut, she looked very innocent and normal. His eyes remained on her face, taking in the shape of her large eyes and her long lashes. His gaze moved to her small pointed nose, and then her lips. His eyes lingered on her pink bow-shaped lips for some time, before moving to her chest, which kept rising and falling as she slept. He could make out the outline of her nipple through the light material. Once he felt a stir in his groin, he quickly returned his gaze to her face before looking away from her. The last thing he wanted was to be sexually attracted to someone like her. What was he going to do with her for a week? He had never had a lady with him for such a long duration. What were they going to talk about? What were they going to do? Now that he had to stay off his feet, it meant that there was no way he could leave the house. He did not doubt that the next couple of days were going to be very frustrating for him. He intended to frustrate her just as much anyway. There will be no writing for her, and she definitely won't be going anywhere without him either. They were going to be stuck with each other. She wanted a fiancé? She had gotten one. Hopefully, if he played his cards right, she would want to call off everything and leave even before the end of the first week. Meanwhile, in another room down the hall, Matt was lying down naked on the bed beside Candace. "Wow, you are something," he said breathlessly as they both tried to catch their breath. "You aren't so bad yourself," Candace said with a playful smile as she sat up on the bed. "Not so bad, huh? How about I show you how good a guy can be?" Matt asked with a naughty smile as he reached out to grab her, but she quickly moved away. "You should probably check your phone while I dress up. Maybe it's urgent," she suggested as she started picking up her clothes, which were strewn across the floor. "If it was important, either Brian or Sonia would have come looking for me already." "Why? Are you in a hurry to leave?" Matt asked as he sat up on the bed, watching her walk over to the bathroom with her clothes to clean up. "I have to pick up my son from the babysitter's place. I'm late already," she said without turning to look at him. Matt, who had completely forgotten that she had mentioned being a single mother during one of their chats, quickly got out of the bed and walked over to the bathroom door. "I thought you were joking when you mentioned being a single mother," he said as from the doorway, not wanting to go inside, since he knew that even though they had just had sex, she still needed her privacy. "Now, why would I joke about something like that?" Candace asked dryly as she dressed up. "I don't know. I just didn't think you were serious," Matt said with a slight frown. "Well, now you know. It doesn't matter whether or not you're cool with it anyway, since I'm sure we won't be seeing each other after tonight," Candace said as she walked out of the bathroom, completely dressed. "And why is that?" Matt asked in confusion. "Because I don't think I like the idea of getting mixed up with celebrities. If I had known from the onset that you were an actor, I never would have agreed to go on a date with you. Having something to do with you would mean my business becomes public business. I don't want my son finding out what his mother does for a living from other people," Candace said, matter-of-factly, as she walked over to the bedside drawer and picked up her handbag. Matt grabbed her arm before she could pick up her handbag. "So why did you leave the restaurant with me? Why did you have sex with me?" Matt asked in confusion. Candace shrugged. "I just thought that it would be a waste of all that spark between us if we don't get down to it. It shouldn't be a big deal to you anyway. I'm sure someone like you wasn't thinking of dating someone like me anyway," she said with a wry smile as she placed her other hand over his hand, which was holding her arm, and gently detached it. "I need to hurry." "Goodbye," Candace said as she picked up her handbag and quickly walked away, leaving Matt, who was staring after her in disbelief.